If you know anything about the 7 Deadly Sins, you already know that it's not as successful as some other shonen series out there. Despite being around when Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia were blowing up, it just didn't catch on in nearly the same way. Hell, even Black Clover gets more attention with its characters making it into a game like Jump Force. Okay, that's not really a flex, I guess, but still. And it doesn't really help with how much 7 Deadly Sins gets criticized for its sketchy animation after season 2. Because no matter how much Netflix pushes to promote it as one of their originals, anime fans would still rather watch Baki Hanma getting peed on than to see whatever the hell is going on with Meliodas. Despite all this, 7 Deadly Sins managed to get a few games of its own developed, which is one of the clear signs that you're making it somewhere in the world of anime. While we aren't talking about the mobile game Grand Cross today, I just have to say how crazy it is to see how many other anime have had a crossover event with that game. Like, they even had a crossover with Stranger Things because of course that makes total sense, right? But maybe we'll talk about that some other day. Today we need to jump into Knights of Britannia and see what the first console game had to offer. Could it come close to what the other anime games have done and bring in a brand new fanbase? We'll have to see, but let's start off with the campaign. The story follows along closely with the anime and manga, going through Meliodas and Elizabeth's journey to reunite the 7 Deadly Sins and fight back against the New Holy Knights. They follow the plot pretty well and will take you through all the fights and dialogue that you would expect from the series. We get to experience seasons 1 and 2 of the anime, which leaves us with a decent amount of characters, combat, and lore to dig into. Well, sort of. Because if you ask most people what season 2 really is, they probably say it's where we see the 10 Commandments start to make their moves. But since Netflix loves to be stupid with their original series, they claim that season 2 is a set of 4 OVAs that are basically filler episodes. So technically we only get to see the story of season 1 with some additions that do lead to Escanor making an appearance outside of the main story later on.
Oh my god, what is that?
So we do still see everything from recruiting each sin to uncovering some of the secrets of the demon army and even getting back some of the sacred treasures. Just not nearly as much that digs into heavier plot twists that take place in the later seasons, unfortunately. There may have been plans to develop a sequel or even DLC, as later parts even start to mention the arrival of the 10 Commandments. And they did add in Zeldris as a playable character near the very end, but unfortunately that's the most you'll see from them. Okay, wait, that's not entirely true. So Zeldris is the only playable member of the 10 Commandments. After the game originally released, they dropped some extra free quests that include battles against the members of the 10 Commandments. So yes, they actually are here and do have fully functioning models, just not ones that you can use for yourself. And also, these are just battles, so we're not getting much for the story except some minor interactions before each fight. Seeing how this series is already finished and there being so little attention on it, it's possible that we won't be seeing a sequel to this anytime soon. But even still, it is good to see how true to the plot everything here is. It's nothing too fancy, with most of the scenes being static with a lot of dialogue, but it's still covered pretty well. Moving on to the actual gameplay, let's start off with the tutorial, which is very quick and doesn't explain things slowly at all. Now, the basics of fighting aren't very complicated, and if you've played these anime arena fighters before, then you'll pick up on it without a problem. You have your standard attacks, your heavy attacks, and a ranged attack. Then you have up to 3 special attacks and 1 ultimate for every character. Combat is halfway between a beat 'em up and an arena fighter. There's a variety of different quests that have you facing hordes of enemies, fighting both 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, and even some sections where you collect materials while Hawk protects you. And hey, I get it, you can't make Elizabeth be a fighter, so this is just about all you get from her for gameplay. As far as the other characters go, there's different types like speed, power, and magic. Speed is the most balanced, with you being able to move around and attack pretty freely, and these are characters like Meliodas and Gother who have a decent damage output and mobility. Then when we get to the power types, you'll notice that they start to move super slow, but they also have more damage potential and super armor while they attack. Even still, these weren't my favorite to play as just because of them feeling excruciatingly slow. But that's still not as frustrating as the magic types. These are the most annoying to me since all of their attacks will drain your magic bar. So when you're attacking and doing combos, you need to keep a close eye on your magic gauge before running out and being totally helpless. It might add a little bit of strategy into your combos and attacks, but damn, it is just the most annoying thing. But anyways, I think that also ties into the balance within Knights of Britannia. Normally I hear most of the complaints from the competitive communities, and I tend to ignore them since I'm here for fun and I'm not here to sweat. But damn, is this shit broken. I can't imagine this game being anywhere close to competitive with how the mechanics work. Most characters are very true to the series with all their attacks, but that also means that so many of them are very unbalanced. Fighting against the computers is always going to be different than a real person, of course, but some of these attacks get so annoying to fight against. Looking online, it seems the community would hate fighting against characters like Demon Form Meliodas, Hendrik, or Zeldris because they were made to be overpowered. And while I'd say it's not a huge deal now since nobody is even looking at this game anymore, I can see why this would destroy the player base. Outside of the online play and character balance, the fights I experienced in the story were still a fun time. Each arena has destructible buildings, rocks, and trees that will drop magical energy. This energy is then used in the Boar's Hat between missions where you can start to upgrade your stats. The magic item creation acts like a skill tree where you use materials from quests to unlock upgrades and new abilities. The main thing that's annoying is that everything that you could possibly unlock for anything in the game is in here. Like upgrades for specific characters, unlockable skills, and even things like increasing the movement speed on the world map. While it technically does follow along with how you progress through the story anyway, it feels super messy sorting through it all. So if you want to upgrade one specific character, you may be blocked by something else that is in the way that has nothing to do with that character. Like, why in the hell would I be interested in upgrading Hawk before I'm interested in upgrading someone like Meliodas or Merlin? And another major complaint I have with the fights has to be the camera. Sometimes it gets way too close when you're doing combos and tends to move around a ton through every fight. After a while it starts to get distracting, and it can be even worse if you're fighting on a very tight stage. Even calling out your allies for help will make the fight even harder to see, with the whole screen filling up with text and other effects. Then the lock-on is pretty jank and doesn't always stick with your targets the way it should. I often find myself attacking trees or buildings as the lock-on wants to target those instead of the guys that are standing right in front of me. So while I do think destructible objects are a great addition to this game, I just hate how much it gets in the way of actual fights. After each quest you'll earn gossip points, which slowly unlocks more missions on the map. Some of these missions are directly in line with the plot, and others are going to be things like trials for specific characters as you start unlocking them. When you get those gossip points on the battle results screen, they will always give you a full look at Deanne's ass, so get used to seeing plenty of it. But after you do eventually finish the story and see the end credits roll, there is still plenty of missions and objectives that you can do. The only bad part being that it is a pain in the ass trying to complete them all. Because the map has quests scattered around all over the place, you'll be forced to travel back and forth through every map multiple times. And even when you do travel to one place and unlock one thing, cool, you did that mission, now you gotta go all the way back to the other side of the map and unlock even more things to do too. And sure, you could just not do those missions after you complete the game, but you might want to, because a few of the characters are locked behind these quests and you will have to do quite a few of them so you can get the rumor levels up in each region. And even after you do eventually unlock Zeldris and the last of the Sins Escanor, you will have harder quests to take part in. But for those, it honestly isn't that deep unless you're dying to fill out the rest of the skill tree. And after all of that, we have seen just about all this game has to offer. Despite all of its flaws, I just don't think I can outright say that I hate this game. I can absolutely see why it's not taken as seriously as other anime arena fighters, but I do think that for what it is, it's a fairly fun time. With the main plot being only about 10 hours long and the combat being imbalanced, it still was a pretty nice time to play through. But I definitely do see why most people would play this a few times and immediately drop it soon after. I would have loved seeing these developers give it another shot since they now have the entire series to work with, but I can't imagine how many people would be looking forward to a 7 Deadly Sins game in this day and age. Hey, I get it, maybe you're a 7 Deadly Sins fan yourself and you crave more than just what you have with Grand Cross. Maybe you want your favorite series to get the same level of attention that you see My Hero and Naruto getting on a regular basis. Because it may not be very often that you see a game bringing back attention and hype for a series, but it would be cool if that was the case here. Especially since the sequel anime for Knights of the Apocalypse is coming to Netflix very soon. So having the whole series being playable will be a great way for new and old fans to get caught up and fight with a full roster. Plus, I'm sure they could take that chance to make the game outshine the anime and possibly be the definitive way to experience the story. But that's just my opinion on it. Let me know your thoughts on 7 Deadly Sins Knights of Britannia. Would you want to play this despite it being pretty short? And do you want to see another game like it come to consoles? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you all in the next video.